Hey everyone, Keith here, and I'm with new author Sharn Rayner, who resides in New Zealand but is currently here in the United States. And we are going to talk about her newly released monograph, which will be released at our symposium here in a few days. Sharn, welcome to our little conversation here.
Thank you very much. It's a joy to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity to write the monograph.
Fantastic. And so, listeners, Sharn is many things. I've come to appreciate her as a world traveler, but also she is a coach at the highest level. She's what we call a maestro coach. She also is a consultant and owner of Two Tides Consulting in New Zealand. She's been a founder of a business as well as a CEO. And I could go on, but I just wanted to give you context before we step into and talk about her new monograph. And Sharn, with that, the monograph is called The Promise Framework, a guide to communicating and delivering customer value. What's the big idea behind the monograph?
So the big idea is that customers don't buy features, they buy outcomes. And the Promise Framework is all about helping leaders shift from selling what they do to proving results that they can deliver. It's about
Mhm.
turning value into something measurable, meaningful, and magnetic as well.
So making valuable much value much more tangible is part of the big idea. And this has probably been in your mind for many days. Why did you decide to write it?
The reason that I chose this as the big idea to focus in on
Mhm.
is that through my experience, when you're working with mid-market businesses, leaders tend to struggle to articulate their value. They
Mhm.
know that they deliver great work, but they can't prove the impact.
Mhm.
So I wrote this for leaders that are tired of being the best kept secret in their industry
Mhm.
and want to find a way to turn trust, results, and renewal into a repeatable system.
Mhm. And so that really goes to the core of the problem to solve here too, correct?
Yes.
Um, Talk a little bit about that, and if you have an example or a story to tell where this has been real in your coaching consulting life, that'll be helpful for listeners and readers to make it come alive.
No, absolutely. It really is about, often we'll hear clients say, oh, we know we deliver, but we just can't show it.
Hmm.
And what the promise is actually looking at is how do we sort of solve that gap between what we believe we deliver and what customers need to see.
Hmm.
So in terms of how it works for clients, it's very much about a response to stalled deals, churn, price pressures,
Hmm.
and renewal confidence.
Hmm.
So the way that we see it, and examples that I can give you, as if we look at Arlo throughout the
Hmm.
book, as we jump into
Hmm.
the promise framework, if that helps.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. So when we're looking at Arlo, most people will recognize that they may have clients like him or know
Hmm.
or be an Arlo.
Hmm.
And he's actually based, he has a powerful tech product. And what he always did when he went into the sales environment was very much focus on features,
Hmm.
and customers just didn't engage. But once Arlo changed the way that he operated, he moved to the focus of looking at outcomes. He was able to win rates, get better win rates. He was
Hmm.
able to see his clients transform faster by really homing in, like I say, on the outcomes.
Hmm.
So to give you a couple of examples, I'll take you through the promise framework and how it worked for Arlo.
Please.
So we have promise. So the first uh, letter for promise is
Hmm.
P. So it stands for purpose. So what we're looking at there is what is one outcome that your customer truly values.
Hmm.
And in the case of Arlo, before he'd really honed in on purpose, he was very much going into a sales situation, looking at demos, showing those to the potential client. So very much focused on what does the software do. So, for example, automation, dashboards, or integrations.
Hmm.
And so, what Arlo was doing, as many business leaders do, is assume that features equal value.
Hmm.
Whereas after, when Arlo was very much focused on purpose and what was that one compelling value for the client, he changed his questioning. So in the monograph, you'll see he asks, what does success look like for you in 12 months' time?
Mm-hmm.
And then the client is able to say quite clearly, we need to reduce production delays,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to hit the release dates. That's the purpose. So for the client or the prospective client, it was about business continuity and delivery speed.
Mm-hmm.
So Arlo's from that stopped selling the platform and started aligning with the customer's goal.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that they were able to deliver smoother, faster in terms of their project delivery.
So what comes to mind then, in my mind right now, Sharn, we're at a whiteboard and we write the equation values does not equal features.
Yes.
That's a big takeaway to start. Okay, keep going on the promise
No,
framework.
that's right. And certainly it's like, here's what you're trying to do that now is saying, here's the outcome that you care most about,
Mm-hmm.
and this
Mm-hmm.
is how we're going to help you achieve it, which
Mm-hmm.
is not the conversation just about features.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Okay.
So the next part of the framework is results. So here we're looking at how do we really hone in on what matters in the boardroom so
Mm-hmm.
that there's confidence about what it is that you're going to be achieving. So before, Arlon would go to the client and prospective client and say, our tools cut down manual processes, which
Mm-hmm.
again, that's a benefit, but it's not a business case that's going to
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
align the board, as an
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
But once he focused on the results, he was able to reframe it by saying, by cutting your average project cycle by 25%, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to capture an extra 1.2 million of revenue and
Mm-hmm.
improve your margin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a result that is really impossible to ignore. And that's the result that was able to bring different people on board, whether it was the CEO, CFO, COO.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to bring everyone together by turning the promise into something that was compelling value to the board in that
Mm-hmm.
example.
Well, and you mentioned both cycle time, but then it always points down to net income revenue, to a financial
Mm.
metric. Well, is that true, Sharn? When we think of results in the Promise Network, is results all the time or most of the time going to point to a financial metric, just out of curiosity?
Ultimately, they will. So whether
Mm-hmm.
it was the focus was on, we can improve your onboarding time, we can reduce your
Mm-hmm.
cycle of your project time.
Mm-hmm.
It was always about what would make the business more efficient and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately support the financial result that we're trying to achieve in terms of net profitability.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm at the whiteboard in my mind now. Now I'm just writing which results in a financial metric. Okay. Okay. Keep going. PRO. We're on O now.
Oh, okay. So what we're looking at is what are the metrics that will define the success? So how are we actually going to measure this?
Mm-hmm.
And with Arlo, previously what he tended to have was anecdotal evidence, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually have any agreed metrics or success focus with his
Mm-hmm.
customers.
Mm-hmm.
So the outcomes were implied, but they weren't defined.
Mm-hmm.
So by focusing on the O, on the outcomes, what
Mm-hmm.
he was able to do was work with each client and determine what were the KPIs that were necessary up front.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that was time to launch, onboarding, or reduction of churn rate.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the examples in the book, he turned the onboarding, the promise was to cut onboarding by 50%
Mm-hmm.
within 60 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that then became the benchmark for success. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a feeling, that's a fact if you can deliver on that promise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so where the result is a financial outcome, um, the O is upstream in the process, and it's what's changing and being measured that then impacts the financial outcome, the results. Is that accurate?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And when we look at outcomes, it's that's the part that makes the promise real and trackable.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the customer defined metrics that we're focusing on
Mm-hmm.
here,
Okay.
trying to then
And
align everyone.
and so the results often or will be financially driven, which is common for all companies. But the outcome is going to be specific to the type of business in the company. Is that true?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
it's understanding how your product can help your client achieve the result that they're looking for, their goal, their purpose.
Okay, good. So that connects to the core client, which we won't talk about right now. But I think that's an important takeaway in the promise framework, because sometimes, as I work with authors and the readers try and think that one size fits all, but the specificity of the promise framework is the outcome is based on what drives the customer that you're working with. Okay.
That's it. It's the specific metrics that determine their success.
Okay, let's check my spelling. P-R-O, we're on M next.
Magnifiers. So
Okay.
magnifiers are what stories, what proof, or what benchmarks
Okay.
make it credible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before Arlo was, he knew he had great results, but he wasn't telling anybody about them. He knew that he got great feedback from clients. He knew what was being done, but what he was lacking was real proof points. And he didn't share those, especially with new prospects as well. So the whole focus of actually leaning into magnifiers was turning key wins into, for example, case studies, mini case studies. So with one client where they did the onboarding and it dropped from 40 days to 18, that stat then went up on the slide decks, it went into proposals, and it went into conversations with prospective clients as well as existing clients. And another example in the book was where there was reduced asset production. So the time got reduced to just 3 weeks. And then that became the benchmark. So that was what was shared. And I think that the key takeout from magnifiers is that it reduces perceived risk. So what we're saying to a customer, for example, is we've done this before, and here's how we've done it. And we've done it for someone just like you.
So on the magnifiers, this is interesting. So it can be a case study. I call it a proof text. Is it also occasionally an emotional story of change? Does it bring out the human interest? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, that certainly does when we move on to storytelling, which is around our S, and looking at that. But in terms of the tangible things, it may be an article, it may be a case study. It's something that shows the statistics, it shows the metrics of success that we're trying to achieve. And it's aligning those back to the purpose, the outcome as well.
Okay, good. So I have in my mind, I'm drawing on my whiteboard in my mind, a magnifying lens here. These results are magnifying the value of what's happening. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see. We're on to I believe, next.
I is for indicators. So this is looking at now, how do we track delivery in real time? So when we look at Arlo or many of us in terms of how we often operate in business, project success is often only seen at the end. Whether the delivery of a service or the delivery of a product. And if something has slipped, you can be faced with clients who are surprised or frustrated because they didn't know what was going on. With the work that we did with Arlo, it was changing that perspective when we were looking at the indicators. So what he did was he set up dashboards which showed real-time progress on the promises. For him, he used weekly reviews which tracked the indicators like percentage of tasks that have been automated, cost per asset, and help desk resolution times as examples. So they were really visible to the client and reassuring the client during delivery, not just after. So indicators are very much your proof receipts. They make the promise feel alive, trackable, and shows the accountability as well.
Yeah. Well, it's Friday night Friday afternoon as we have this conversation. And sometimes Friday night is pizza night at the Cup household. And the Domino's app, I don't know if you've used that, you actually build and track. Would that be an example of the I?
That is an excellent example of it, where you can see the progress throughout, because exactly that, it's you can see the promises alive in what they're trying to achieve, that it's trackable, that it's accountable. That's a very good example of the way that Domino's actually do that. And what they promise, if, for example, you get your pizza free if it's not done within a certain time frame.
That's right. That's
right.
That's
a good promise.
There we go. Okay, so we're on to S now.
S for storytelling.
Yes.
So now this is really the focus on how do we make those results stick emotionally as
Hmm.
well as strategically.
Hmm. Hmm.
So to take you through Arlo, so what he was doing before, when he was trying to share the results, he would
Hmm.
tend to show screenshots or do technical workthroughs, which often left clients confused or
Hmm. Hmm.
unconvinced in what he was saying.
Hmm.
But it's like when, when we listen to stories, we remember them, we become
Hmm.
emotionally involved, whether it's a film or a fairy tale, we become connected with what's actually going on. So with Arlo, what he changed with storytelling, he would take the client through, or a prospective client through what had happened with somebody else. So, for example, he might say, Sam used to spend 10 hours a week hunting down these files, but now she's able to actually continue doing multiple projects at any one time because the chaos is gone. She has all this data
Hmm.
in what we're looking at or what we've done with the work. But you take it on. It's like that emotional journey of the pain, the challenge that Sam was
Hmm.
experiencing. And it's humanizing the data and it's basically connecting impact with people's real life experiences. So, storytelling is what makes data memorable, emotionally sticky, and shareable across teams because it's easy to go back and tell other people a story, though trying to remember exact data may not work so effectively. And it helps the client feel the win, not just see it on a
Yeah.
screenshot, as an example.
It's interesting, Sharn, as we've worked together, got to know each other through time. Storytelling, I think, is one of the most perhaps underrated, but underskilled skill that many leaders have. And so the storytelling is so very important for listeners that are leaders. I'm going to encourage you to really lean into becoming very good at storytelling because we
Mhm.
know from brain science that decisions are validated intellectually, but they are consummated in the heart, the
Mhm.
emotions. And so both of those play very, very well together.
Definitely.
So it looks like Arlo's on a roll here. He's telling good stories. Finish this up here.
So the last part is engagement. And
Mhm.
so how do we embed this across our whole organization? Because as Arlo found, when it's just him talking the talk, or just the sales team talking about value, or you've got a situation where the delivery team are just focused on tactical tasks, and he isn't modeling the language or the mindset that we're wanting.
Mhm.
So with engagement, it's how do you bring this into your whole organization? And so for Arlo, part of what came here was about using outcome-based language as
Mhm.
part of the onboarding, the team meetings, and even performance reviews. So
Mhm.
everything was aligned. So for example, you may have that the sales team are very much, they open with purpose. You may have the customer success team very much leaning into outcomes,
Mhm.
marketing team, magnifiers and storytelling, and the leaders of the company leaning straight into, the indicators so that
Mhm.
the board can see what matters to them.
Mhm.
And so what you're essentially doing with engagement is creating the promise culture, which is this is who we are and this is how we serve.
Mhm.
So yeah, so engagement is very much is where promise moves from like the concept to culture. It
Mhm.
becomes how you sell, you deliver, you renew, and you lead.
Mhm.
And I think that that's sort of important in terms of the overall framework, that it is not a sales tool that we're
Right.
talking about here. It's very much a strategic and cultural framework that we're
Mhm.
looking to bring about when we're talking about the promise framework.
Mhm. So there's a lot of literature on the street, blogs, podcasts, books, and so on, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So let's say one of our readers orders a copy of this, reads it. Where do they start so they're not overwhelmed? What are the first few steps that you would recommend they take to begin to not only they've learned the Promise Network, now they want to lean into implementing it? What would you advise our listeners and readers?
It's very much one of those processes that it is step by step. So you follow it through from the P to the R to the O to the M. You're moving through it in that order, but you can do small parts of each thing. And
Mm-hmm.
the first part does come, you really do need to lean into what is that compelling value that does matter to the client. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you can't get that bit right,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else actually works. And it does work if you can focus in on that. But you don't have to perfect everything at every stage. You might
Mm-hmm.
start with a couple of metrics. You might
Mm-hmm.
start with an example of a case study, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll become iteratively better as you
Mm-hmm.
continue to work through that.
Mm-hmm. So, the monograph content from Gravitas through our thought leader coaches, maestro coaches, Sharn in this case, it's focused on the mid-market and SME, small and medium enterprises. But for a larger mid-market company, Sharn, or a larger company, can a smaller business unit start with this, put it into play as kind of a proxy and a test before they scale it throughout the organization? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, but it does. The whole point on the engagement side is that you want to have as many people as you can, but there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
saying that you can't, exactly as Arlo did, which is start with a department at a time in
Mm-hmm.
terms of working it through and seeing how that comes together. But
Mm-hmm.
it is the whole framework that you want to try and weave into the organization. Um, and it is very scalable. You can lift it and move it up in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing with the business. Um, yeah, and I think because it is quite a practical and coachable
Mm-hmm.
tool, it really can help mid-market companies get real traction
Mm-hmm.
without getting caught up in all the theory as well.
Right. Again, that's what I love what you've done with your monograph, and it's part of what we do. Simple, practical, actionable. Okay,
Mm.
all the content and so on. So who should read this? Who in your ideal world, you could wave a wand, who should pick this up and read it? Talk a little bit about that, the
Sure.
audience.
Very much growth-minded CEOs, founders, senior sales leaders, anyone that's really wanting to scale up and wanting to lead results, and not just relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships are key, but it's what you bring to those relationships that's the difference here.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe it's also incredibly useful for coaches, especially business coaches, as
Mm-hmm.
our community at Gravitas Impact,
Mm-hmm.
who want to have something tangible and outcome based when they're working with their clients and helping them shift from potential to performance as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Sharon, this is your thought leadership. So you obviously have used this with your clients. Where have you seen resistance, if any, bringing the promise framework into a company by departments, or any resistance that you've seen?
I don't think I've seen resistance. It's
Hmm.
more, how can something so simple work so effectively?
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's part of what makes it a joy to actually introduce
Hmm.
because it is so logical in terms of the way that it operates.
Hmm.
It really is quite effective.
Hmm.
And clients that use it, they feel differently, they see things differently,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
achieve results very quickly.
Hmm.
And I use it myself as a coach. It's You do not need to be spending time laboring over long processes or long
Hmm.
sales processes or trying to really pull your clients with you in terms of what you're doing. If you apply this framework, you can get there very quickly in
Hmm.
terms of what you're trying to achieve.
Hmm.
And again, like even last week, I was demonstrating it to a client and I used my sales process to
Hmm.
achieve it.
Hmm.
And I was able to show quite quickly how, instead of months of trying to convert a
Hmm.
client,
Hmm.
2 days, having not met me, to an annual program
Hmm.
of work. Even I was surprised by that result, but it was good. It was a good
Well, that's right.
story and hit every marker of the promise framework. But it works.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So let's see. So listeners and readers, You can get a copy of the monograph by going to Amazon.com, or you can go to gravitasimpact.com. And then very shortly, Sharn will be shooting a video course also as a companion to go with the monograph. Sharn, if one of our listeners want to reach out to you and contact you, how can they find you or follow you or communicate with you?
Absolutely. Well, they can reach me via my website, which is twotidesbiz, B-I-Z,
Mhm.
and or they can email me at Sharn, Sharn, at twotides, TWOTIDES.biz.
Okay. And then you are also on LinkedIn,
I
correct?
am. Yep,
And
on
what
LinkedIn as well.
would that be under Sharn Rayner or
Sharn
under Two
Rayner.
Tides? Okay, great.
Yeah, and two tides, both. You can reach
Okay.
me either way.
Well, fantastic. And if all else fails, just reach out to me or to Gravitas, and we will put you in touch with Sharn. Sharn, what a delight to team with you on this monograph and to get it launched. So, congratulations. And we're
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the market's response.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Keith. It's been an absolute joy and an education in itself.